Hey there guys, it's Laura here from Laura's Creative Pages and Cards, and welcome to day one of our 31 cards over 31 days. So this is the first one we're going to create, and what you'll need is a card base. This one here is 5.5 wide by 4.25 high as the front cover. We do need a piece of decorative paper. This is the balloons that we're using from the party time, and this here is 5.5 inches wide by 2.5 tall. Then we're also going to need a range of coloured strips. And these ones here is the nectarine, which is the orange, is 3/8 wide by 3.5 tall, and there's 2 of those. Then we have the ballerina paper, which is the light pink, which is 1/2 inch wide by 3.5 tall, and there's 2 of those. And the raspberry, which is 3/8 by 3.5, and 2 of those. As you can see, I have actually already gone ahead and trimmed a few of them with the angle cuts, and I'll show you the rest later. This here is a piece of white cardstock, which is 4 by 1 3/4 to stamp the title, then a scrap piece for the stars. This is a little piece of ballerina, and this one here is 1/2 inch by 2 1/4, and then for the sentiment is 3/8 by 2 1/8. Okay, so they're all the pieces that we need. The first thing we need to do is adhere down this balloon paper, and I just put a little bit of adhesive along in each corner and a little piece in the middle, and this is more than enough to hold the paper onto the card. You don't need to run from side to side, that's just too much. Then this is just being placed in the center of the front of the card and pressed down. The next thing I want to do is add on the black journal penmanship. Okay, and so what I do is hold this down, and my hand is actually pressed against my mat, it's actually touching it, and I drag it along the mat, holding that pen quite firmly, but I drag my hand along, and that's how I tend to keep fairly straight. Obviously it's not perfectly straight and I don't want it to be, but that's how I find I get a nice image by having my hand firmly against the mat and dragging it down. The pen that I like to use is a Close to My Heart Journal black pen, and this is a 0.01, which is a very nice fine line. Next, it's time to add on these strips. However, what I want to show you is how I trim off to get that great angle. So what I do is I hold my scissors on the angle, so this is going down, and I just bring them down to the bottom of the strip on the same angle. So I've got this, so I don't have to think, oh, what am I, meant to do next? So I'm just going to show you again with this pink one. I'm just going to move that out the way, put my pink one in order. Okay, so again, this time I'm going upwards. So my point is facing upwards, and I just bring it down to the bottom of that strip, and I still continue to keep the point of my scissors upwards. All of those little pieces that have come off are rubbish, so I'm just going to get them out the way. Okay, so here I'm showing you how much adhesive I've placed on the back of a strip. 3 small pieces is more than enough. It's very sticky. So I had already pre-stuck onto 4 of them, so I'm getting those ones stuck on nice and quick for you. And then on the back of these 2, again, it's just 3 little tiny strips is all you need. This tape is super sticky, and honestly, this is all you need for a card. Okay, let's not waste where we don't need to, then we can spend our money on other crafting objects. Alright, so here's the Wishing You Everything stamp set that we're using throughout this series. And to get this particular sentiment, the happy, it's consisting of 2 different stamp sets. So it's the outline one, and then it's also the solid one. I personally prefer to stamp the outline decorative piece in black first, because then I find it's easier to line up the colour on top. So I've got this piece of white cardstock that's cut at 4 inches by 1 3/4, and I'm placing this outline image in the center first. So this is why I've got it cut down to this size, so that it's in the center. Now I'm inking up the solid stamp of the happy, and I'm going to be able to see that black stamp lines on my white fairly well, and so I'm just lining that up over the top of the black inked happy and giving it a really good press down, and hey presto, there we go, it's lined up really well. All that's left to do now is cut that out with a pair of scissors or if you do have the matching thin cut, you could just go and whip that through and cut it out with the thin cut. Alternatively, if you do not have coloured inks and you only have black, you also have the option of stamping it onto a piece of coloured cardstock. So this one here is being stamped onto Glacier. Okay, and so there we go. I've done the outline just so that there's a bit of decorativeness to it, and then I'm actually going to stamp black over this black as well. Okay, so I'm just inking up the solid image in black and just placing that there over the top of the pre-imaged, the pre-stamped happy. And just so you know, the colours of the other ones that I've stamped was Carolina and black. Now the stars were stamped in Carolina, and for this particular alternative I am simply stamping it in black onto the Glacier as well as another alternative. Okay, so if you don't have coloured inks, you could certainly just stamp with black. Okay, the sentiment. So the sentiments here on the left hand side of the stamp set are curved, as you can see. However, on this particular card it's a very straight birthday. That's because our stamps here can actually be straightened out onto the block to be a straight birthday rather than a curved birthday. Okay, and on this card I've stamped in nectarine. So if you've got any kind of orange, that will do. Otherwise, alternatively, you could also stamp it in black or a pink, any colour that will suit. And I love that our stamp sets on the acrylic blocks are clear, because it just stamps perfectly in that little tiny piece of card. And then when I pull it off the block, it'll just go back to its curvy self. Okay, so that just needs to get taped on there. Alright, let's get to putting the rest of this card together. So I'm going to adhere this happy sentiment, and what I like to do with my tape is cut a longer piece off, and then I'm going to actually cut that down into thinner strips because it really doesn't need to be long. This is where I want to roughly place my sentiment, so I'm putting a piece of tape on that strip. So that tape there, I'm going to cut so this tape here is too high because there's a piece underneath the pink strip and then there's a piece on top. So now I need to level it out at the other end. That means I need two pieces, a double height. So you can see I'm placing here two pieces on top of each other to get the double height. And then I do want to just place a small piece in the center so that that longer sentiment there doesn't sag. Okay, so that's why I'm doing the tape like so. So I've got a double thickness on the right hand side so that it's the same level as a piece of double tape on top of the pink strip that's got double tape underneath. And that's how the alternative looks. Totally looks fabulous as well. So if you don't have coloured ink, that's what the alternative looks like. Okay, now I'm going to tape the birthday to the ballerina mat. And yes, I have a birthday on both sides because I had already stamped it once and I wanted to show you stamping it. So I have a birthday on both sides. And you know what? This goes to show as well, if you make an error on one side, you can turn it over and stamp it again. It's totally okay. So that's how it would look with the alternative. All right, now let's stick the birthday on beneath the happy. And I'm just going to put two pieces on top of each other there to raise this another level up. Because I've placed two pieces of tape on top of the pink piece, which already has one piece of tape underneath it, I'll now need three pieces of tape to level it out. So I've just cut one piece of foam tape into three pieces, or I've cut off three pieces of foam tape, sorry, and I'm just going to adhere that. So it's actually going to be yet another level higher than the actual happy, giving our card really nice 3D look. Alright, the last step to finishing off this card is to place our stars on the card that we've pre-stamped and cut. So just looking at my first card to know where our placement is, I cut off a strip of 3D tape and then I'm just going to cut this into thirds, into little tiny pieces to go beneath the stars. 3 little pieces, 3 little stars. Just popping those little bits of tape in the centers there and then just sticking them down onto the card. So as you can see, it's a fabulous, fabulous card. I love it. It's such a really easy design that you could replicate over and over with all sorts of different themes and different colours. Okay, and that star is just going on top of the orange, so we've again got different heights in layers. And of course, the alternative, we're just going to place that on top just to show you how it looks. And that is card 1. Thank you so much for joining me in making this card today. And I really look forward to seeing other variations from other people. Thank you so much. Bye now.